Well, it's now time as we're down to our final 4 weeks of the 2019 DCFL season. As we now take a look at the current standings, as in the Eastern Conference, Charlotte leads at 8-4, followed by New York at 8-4, and by Charm at 7-5, followed by Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and Philadelphia right behind. And then in the Western Conference, we see Indianapolis and Chicago with the top 2 seeds in the playoffs too, with Phoenix the 3rd seed, Oakland 4th, then LA, and then Seattle. We have a couple playoff elimination scenarios, since it wouldn't come to my head, and possible clinching scenarios. But let's get into the games and we'll see what happens. So we start off the week with the Jacksonville Scouts visiting my Charm, as unfortunately we lost last week hosting Chicago, as we need to win here to keep up with everyone in that division, to keep our first place spot in the playoffs and maybe get back into the 2nd seed possibly. Meanwhile, Jacksonville, wow, remember they were 1-7 at one point. Now they've won 4 in a row and looking excellent. I believe I beat them earlier in the year, but times have changed now. This game's going to probably be very tough. And the Scouts destroyed my Charm 51-21 in a defensive slugfest, as Jacksonville's defense out there were 2 sacks, an interception, 3 forced fumbles, and recovered 2 of them. They didn't even get 400 yards of offense, so it wasn't really an offensive route. It was just more of a defensive route. My God, what a complete implosion it was for my Charm, as we've been outscored, I believe it's 74-31 these last 2 games, and both at home. Yikes, that's not looking really good, as Jacksonville is now within 1 game of tying my Charm back into the playoffs. What an incredible comeback Jacksonville is making. And then it's the Charlotte Bobcats visiting the Pittsburgh Power, as Charlotte right now leading the Eastern Conference. As they win out, they got this. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, remember they started off 2-6, now they're 4-6, and right on the verge of tying my Charm to get back into the playoff race. Oh man, I've got a bad feeling about this game. And Pittsburgh won it 27-15 in a defensive struggle, as they forced 3 sacks, an interception, 2 fumbles, and recovered 1 of them. Although Charlotte's defense played good too, as they suffered their first loss in a while, as Pittsburgh has now won 5 in a row, and they now tie my Charm for that 3rd seed. Thankfully, I have the tiebreaker over them for the moment, so I have the lead in that regard. But, oh God, Pittsburgh and Jacksonville are making one giant comeback, as the Eastern Conference is just absolutely loaded. Then it's the New York Gangsters visiting the Philadelphia Sonics, as New York now, thanks to Jacksonville's loss, has a chance to win and take the lead in that division once again. Meanwhile, Philadelphia out of the playoffs and still suffering the worst losing streak right now. Oh my God, this is like getting worse than Oakland was last year. And New York would barely get the win, 24-22, as they were up 24-3 at one point. But then in the 4th quarter, Philadelphia decided to make a massive comeback to get within 2 points. However, they went for the onside kick, and New York recovered it, so they were able to run out the clock. 4 sacks by New York's defense, but Philadelphia's defense, a sack, 4 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and a defensive touchdown. So man, New York's offense completely imploded right there and almost choked the game away, as they managed to get the win, their first win season as Philadelphia. Tough loss, they almost made the comeback, as they continue now losing 10 in a row, I believe. And then we head to the Western Conference with the Indianapolis Rabid Stallions visiting the LA Mean Green Machines, as Indianapolis made the playoffs last week. Now is trying to just win out to keep ahead of Chicago in that conference. Meanwhile, LA on the verge of missing the playoffs. If shit doesn't turn around right now, they have to win this game. And Indianapolis would win it 31-20 in a game that was actually close going into the 4th quarter, until finally Indianapolis ran away for it. And funny enough, LA actually put up more yards than Indianapolis did. Almost put up 500 yards. And they put up 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles and recovered them, as Indianapolis defense got a sack, an interception, 2 forced fumbles and recovered 1. They held on and had a tight victory there, as LA put up a hard-fought effort but just couldn't get the win. Now, of course, LA still in the playoff race for right now, but of course, if Oakland or Phoenix wins, they are eliminated. And then it's the Oakland Pillagers visiting the Seattle Tenyo, as Oakland needs to win and keep up with Phoenix for that last playoff spot in the Western Conference, since Indianapolis and Chicago clinched the 2. Meanwhile, Seattle already eliminated from the playoffs. not going to make it this year, is just trying to play spoiler now for a very disappointing season it's been this year. And Oakland would get in a defensive struggle 12-9 as neither offense could get anything going, but luckily for Oakland, they managed to get the 2 field goals needed in the first quarter, just to edge out Seattle in a hard-fought game. And of course, as I already mentioned, with this win, LA is officially eliminated from the playoffs. So hey, we know one of Matthew's 2 teams is going to get into the playoffs. It's just a matter of who's it going to be now. And then finally, we finish off the week with Phoenix visiting Chicago, as Phoenix needs to win to keep up with Oakland for that last last playoff spot in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, Chicago already in the playoffs for the first time ever. Now they need to win to keep up with Indianapolis in that division so they can try and get that #1 seed. So here we go. And Chicago would get it 27-16 as they pretty much dominated this game. 2 forced fumbles and a sack, as Phoenix tried to play catch-up, but they just couldn't keep up with Chicago. And with this win, it also officially clinches Chicago at least the #2 seed, so it's either going to be Oakland or Phoenix getting the 3rd wildcard seed visiting Chicago or Indianapolis. So now we take a look at the updated standings with 3 weeks remaining. As we see in the Eastern Conference, New York leads the division now at 9-4, Charlotte at 8-5, and my charm at 7-6. Pittsburgh's right there, 4th seed, and then Jacksonville at 6-7. Meanwhile, the Western Conference, Indianapolis and Chicago, like I said, are in the playoffs. They got the top 2 seeds, with Phoenix and Oakland going to fight out for that last wildcard spot, as LA and Seattle are eliminated from the playoffs. And we have a playoff clinching scenario, and that's in the Eastern Conference. If New York wins and Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Jacksonville all lose, they will be in the playoffs for the first time ever. So now we take a look at the Week 14 schedule, starting off with, oh boy, the big one, of course. Pittsburgh coming into town to face my charm, as whoever wins that has the 3rd seed in the playoffs at the moment. And then it'll be Philadelphia at Charlotte, and then Jacksonville at New York. That's going to be a big game between those two, and I was incorrect when I said earlier New York would clinch a playoff spot if they win and Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore all lose, since it's impossible for Pittsburgh and Baltimore to both lose. Unless we tied, then maybe they get into the playoffs. And then in the Western Conference, it'll be Seattle at Indianapolis. Then Phoenix at Oakland. That's going to be big. Whoever wins that has the 3rd seed in the playoffs at the moment. And then finally it'll be Chicago visiting LA. So now we're down to our final 3 weeks of season. Hopefully we have 2 teams in. Hopefully we'll have a 3rd one possibly coming in soon. And then maybe seeing the other teams maybe make the playoffs next week. So see you guys then.